Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third hackathon of the Indy Autonomous Challenge. This is Sandeep Soni from ANSYS. At ANSYS, we are proud to be the exclusive simulation sponsor of the Indy Autonomous Challenge and to have the opportunity to work with all the incredible teams participating in this challenge from all over the world. Before we get started, I want to take this opportunity to thank Energy Systems Network and Indianapolis Motor Speedway for putting together this exciting and ambitious Indy Autonomous Challenge event. The Indy Autonomous Challenge was inspired by the DARPA Grand Challenges, so 15 years ago. That was the genesis of today's vast and growing autonomous vehicles industry. The student participants from that time went on to become top leaders and heroes of today's autonomous vehicle industry. And similarly, in the Indy Autonomous Challenge, we are seeing heroes of tomorrow being made right in front of our eyes. And we are incredibly excited and proud to have the opportunity to work with all of you here every day. In this challenge, we are on an incredible journey, which started about a year ago and will go on till October of this year. So through this incredible journey, we at ANSYS are holding a series of hackathons, which are fun competitive events with training and learning opportunities for the race teams. The first and the second hackathons were held in spring and autumn of last year. From one hackathon to the next hackathon, the competition challenges are steadily steeper, providing race teams the opportunity to ramp up on their skills. For example, in the second hackathon conducted in autumn, the race teams got on the track for the first time. Actually, I should say the race teams got on the virtual racetrack for the first time. The race teams got on the virtual racetrack and had their autonomous drivers drive around a virtual model of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway instead of an ANSYS simulation. And now in the second hackathon, though, the race teams drove solo. There was only one car at a time on the track. So taking that a step up from then, in today's hackathon, we are going to see two teams competing on the track at the same time. So with that, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you our fantastic commentary panel today. Today we have with us Tom Smittyman, Ryan Gilleran, and Shubhang Mittal. So guys, are you ready to make history? This is the first time when autonomous vehicles are driving head-to-head on a virtual speedway.
Pretty exciting, Sandeep. Thanks very much for turning it over to us. It is great to be back in the virtual state of Indiana. We've got a lot packed in for our viewers today, Ryan, don't we?
Yeah, that's right, Tom. And I'm pretty excited to be back in the booth with you guys to witness how all of our racers have evolved since we last saw them back in October.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that it's been almost 3 months since we last saw them compete on this sort of virtual journey here. I'm sure they've made some long strides since we last saw them, and I'm sure they're itching to get back on the track.
And we are right there with them, Shubhang. So before we get into the actual races, why don't we take a quick look at some of the important variables that have changed since the last time we were on this virtual track together. Ryan, can you walk us through those?
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. You know, you can't have a race without a racetrack. And we have the pleasure to be back at one of the most prestigious racetracks in the world, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, this speedway's been around for well over 100 years. And while the original track was made of brick, our competitors will be working with tarmac today.
That's right, Ryan. But the track specs remain the same. It's a 2.5-mile track. It includes 4 turns with banking of 9.2 degrees. Each turn roughly a 1/4 mile long, and that means the 2 straights are 5/8 of a mile.
Yeah, and look at that, Tom. If you wouldn't have it, perfect conditions for racing again here today. It's crazy. It's almost like it never rains in virtual Indiana.
Pretty cool stuff. I'm coming to you live from Pittsburgh right now, where we've got snow. So virtual Indiana is looking a lot better right now. By the way, this is what you're looking at. This video right here is a look at the winning lap from our friends in Italy at Polimove from the second hackathon.
Yeah, this team was really a sight to see last go around, as they were able to string together some consistently fast laps and take home the trophy. You know, they'll look to improve on those lap times with some modifications that were made to the vehicle model, you know, but of course they'll have some wrenches thrown at them with some of the challenge that we've organized for all of the teams here today.
Yes, wrenches indeed. So let's take a look at some of the modifications that were made to the vehicle after the last event. Did I hear, Shubhang, that there's a new top speed for the car?
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at just over 310 kilometers an hour for Hackathon 3. Originally in Hackathon 2, the vehicles were in fact limited to 200 kilometers an hour.
Okay, and it also looks like we've made a pit stop, and our good friends at Bridgestone have slapped some new rubber on these race cars.
Yeah, that's right. And with a completely different tire grip and a higher top speed, I'm sure the teams have had to make you know, some major changes to their virtual driver.
Yeah, interesting that you say virtual driver, right? We know that each team has a suite of sensors that are basically acting as the driver's eyes. So, Shubhang, why don't you walk us through what that looks and feels like?
Yeah, so we've seen some major overhauls with the sensing suite. We've seen updates to the side radars. They're better equipped to detect the track walls this time around. An update to the LiDAR as well. So we've done away with the rotating LiDAR, and now they've been replaced by 3 flash LiDARs, giving them that 360 view. In addition to that, we now have 2 front cameras that have filled up some of the blind spots. Overall, I'd say amazing work by the Deep Orange team, really perfecting the sensor suite for these high-speed applications.
All right, so let's talk about what the real reason we're here is our main event, Ryan, head-to-head racing. And as Sandeep had mentioned, this is a first today, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, Tom. This is actually the first time in history that there will be 2 autonomous vehicles competing against each other head-to-head through means of simulation. You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a second to recognize this achievement for ANSYS and for all of our teams competing today.
Yeah, and Ryan, that's great. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you to everyone who's had a hand in making all of this possible.
Thanks, Tom. All right, let's kick it over to Shubhang and have him give a quick description of the scenario for this head-to-head challenge.
Yeah, so for the head-to-head, the teams start right behind the brickyard. They're required to complete 5 laps, so that means they would have to cross the brickyard line 6 times. The timing mechanism measures the laps at 500 at 500ths of a second. And this time they get a rolling start, similar to what we see on the actual track and the similar staggered setup that we've seen before.
All right, so let's take a look at how we decided to pair each team here. You know, so since this was a global event, geographic proximity was a major factor for competitive alignment, as teams would need to work together to successfully accomplish this challenge. You know, of course, one of our goals is to invite as much collaboration between teams as possible, but sometimes time zone variation can make that, you know, quite the challenge. So that was something that we really wanted to limit as much as possible, making it one less thing for these teams to worry about. We also wanted to pair teams based on their preferred method of software development environment, as well as middleware. So having teams that were in agreement on these topics, you know, was imperative to ensuring an even playing field for each team. And you know, by the look of it, some of these race pairings seem to have the makings of some pretty exciting matchups. Shubhang, are there any that stick out to you here?
I guess I've seen all of them. I think I'm going to keep it a secret. I'm pretty sure letting you in on that would be some form of insider trading.
Yeah, I can understand that, but you know, some that really jump off of the page to me are, of course, our 3 finalists from last hackathon. So we have Autonomous Tiger Racing in the first pairing here, Crimson Autonomous Racing in the 4th, and of course the reigning champion Polimove as the second to last pairing to go up. So I'm sure they're hoping to string together, you know, another winning performance and take home the prize, but you know, not if their competition has anything to say about it. All right, so with that, I think maybe we should just go ahead and jump into the races here, and yeah, let's see how things shake out. All right, so up first, as I mentioned in our first race, we have the Autonomous Tiger Racing team from Auburn University, you know, who came home with the bronze medal last hackathon, and they'll be facing up against the Waterloo Autonomous Racing team from the University of Waterloo. Let's kick things off here.
All right, and they are off. Pretty clean start. Waterloo settling in, making their way to the inside line.
Yeah, as we get a nice shot of the second turn here. All right. So if we fast forward and we look at the first lap, let's look at the race times. It looks like it's a pretty dead even race with Waterloo actually finishing just you know, it looks like less than 100th of a second faster than Autonomous Tiger.
Yeah, it looks like they had a good start, and the race line seems to be pretty similar, except I can see Waterloo usually likes to go on the center of the track, especially on the straights, but then Tiger seems to be sticking to the inside line. This is something that we've seen them do in Hackathon 2 as well. It's try and stay really close to the inside line throughout the track. So we head into turn 3 through 4, and on the start-finish straight, we're at the end of lap 3. Pretty consistent times with Tiger and Water Race, 46.43, 46.44 for Tiger, and a 46.64 and 6.48, and they're matched up quite well, actually. Water Race did get a leg up on lap 1, but it seems like they have settled in to a normal for the 6.48s and thereabouts in the following laps.
Yeah, it looks like ATR has really started to maybe pull away here as we finish with the 5th lap. If we look at our overall times, you can see it was a pretty close race with ATR finishing just over a second faster than Waterloo. But if you'll take a look at the penalties, no penalties.
Yeah, clean runs by all of them. There were some by Tiger where they got really close to the line, but they had at least some part of the tire on the line, so they're good.
Okay, as we start the second heat now, another smooth start. Tiger seems to be following Waterloo's pace pretty evenly.
Yeah, and I do want to mention here, if you look at the top of the board, Waterloo is now the black race car and Tiger is now the white race car. Just wanted to get that out in the clear so we don't confuse anybody here. As we come down the final stretch, let's look at our first lap times. Again, pretty close.
Yeah, Tiger did make up for that sort of staggered start position, but they're still going to look for an opportunity to get ahead. With the cars going flat out, I think the only opportunity that Tiger is going to get is if Water Race makes a mistake on the track. It seems like Water Race is controlling the pace pretty well for the overall heat here. So as we approach lap 2, this will be the true test on how they're doing. So 46.64 and a 46.65, that's down to 100th of a second. So we saw Tiger post better lap times in Heat 1, but it seems like Water Race is really holding them back.
Yeah, you have to wonder if that's going to affect their standings overall.
Yeah, I think they have to decide between two sort of situations. Do they want to gain sort of overall positions and sort of NP1 in this particular heat, or do they just want to stay consistent with their lap time so that they might have the sort of the larger prize in mind?
Yeah, and look at this. They seem to be exchanging lap times here. This is going to be a close finish here.
Yeah, the 656 and swapped around. It seems like almost like Tiger copied what Water Race did in terms of a race line. That might be an interesting thing to look into, is to mimic your competitor's race line in the following laps.
Ooh, same time for the last lap. So let's take a look at overall standings here. Look how close that is. Waterloo actually edges out ATR by 0.2 of a second. Wow. And again, no penalties. Great racing by both teams here.
Yeah, and we're looking at 0.2 across 5 laps. That's a really, really close race here.
Yeah, so where does this put us? Here is the leaderboard. We'll be filling this out over the course of the afternoon, of course. But our friends at Auburn University from the Tiger team are in the #1 position, followed very closely by Waterloo. So with that in mind, why don't we get right into our second race and that first heat, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. So here we have Cavalier Autonomous Racing Team out of the University of Virginia being pitted up against actually a newly partnered pair of teams. So here we have MIT driverless, out of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, paired with the University of Pittsburgh's Robotics and Automation Society. This should be a good race.
All right, and we are off. So Cavalier in the black, Mitt Pitt in white. Although, Ryan, we're not seeing Mitt Pitt at all. Cavalier must have taken a commanding lead over them.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if Cavalier is holding off Mitt Pitt, and that's maybe why we're not seeing them. It's interesting. I thought they would be in frame by now.
All right, here we go. Oh, well, that explains it, doesn't it?
Yeah, quite a bit. It looks like Team Mitt Pitt decided to take a little joyride out into the infield. They might need to be calling a tow truck.
Yeah, I'm afraid there is not going to be any recovery in this heat, so we're going to watch Cavalier sort of soldier on the track for a little bit by itself.
Yeah, it looks like when Cavalier sort of made that aggressive maneuver into the race line of Mitt Pitt, it really threw Mitt Pitt off.
Well, it looks like Cavalier's got the track all to themselves. They should be able to put the pedal to the floor and just try to get the fastest lap here without having to face any obstacles from Mitt Pitt along the way. All right.
Yeah, 47.248. That's an impressive time by Cavalier. It's still a second down from the other teams that have competed, but a good benchmark by Cavalier here.
Okay, so coming into the second heat then, we do have some good news to announce. So our friends at Mitt Pitt are now on the track again. So let's see what they can do. Well, not very much, is it?
Yeah, it looks like Cavalier just rockets by them here. But hey, good news is Mitt Pitt's still on the track. They're still going to be able to log some sort of lap time here. But let's get another look at that.
Yeah, quite a clean maneuver by Cavalier. It seems like Mitt Pitt had a horrible start. I'm not sure if it's just the start that was really slow or they're going with an overall lower speed in order to complete the challenge. But Cavalier, quite calculative there. They did not make any aggressive maneuvers as soon as the race started. Oh, that's into the walls by Cavalier. I'm sure there'll be a penalty. But yeah, it seems like Cavalier assessed the situation in the beginning and took time to go into turn one and then decided to execute that overtaking maneuver there.
Yeah, nice analysis there, Shubhang. Looks like we have our second lap times here. Cavalier has a steady command of the lead, wrapping up their second lap with a time of 47 seconds. And as we look, we actually just finished our third lap here as well. Both running consistent races. However, Cavalier is a strong 20 seconds ahead of Team Mitt Pitt, and looks like they might be lapping them for a second time around the track here.
Yeah, they really have to close up that gap. They're 20 seconds. I haven't seen that in an oval in any of the race that I've witnessed. That gap needs to be closed up, and Mitt Pitt really needs to put in some effort there. And we have Cavalier with Mitt Pitt in their sight, and that's quite a clean overtake from Cavalier, taking the outside line on the right and then making their way in with a late apex on turn 4 and towards the start-finish straight.
Shubhang, any idea what Mitt Pitt changed this time around in this heat that seemed to correct that problem?
I think it was just an unexpected situation that they did not consider, with Cavalier really blocking off their view. I feel like the virtual driver really got confused as to where that additional object showed up from. A bunch of penalties for Cavalier here. So as it turns out, they did touch the wall once every lap, and it's going to cost them some time. It might not affect them in this particular heat, but in the overall standings, that's going to affect them quite badly.
Yeah, it looks like roughly 40 seconds of penalties here, as if they would have finished Heat 2 below or sub the 4-minute mark. Now they're quite over that 4-minute mark with a time of 4 minutes and 39 seconds. And as we look at Team Pitt, they were actually able to log a full heat here, but still not quite good enough with a time of 5 minutes and 40 seconds.
So Ryan, why don't you give us a sense as to what's up next?
Yeah, absolutely. Here we have Black and Gold Autonomous Racing. So this is actually a team between Purdue University and West Point, and they'll be facing up against IUPUI, IITKPG, and USB. Now I know that's quite the alphabet soup of a team name there, but I actually do want to point out that this is the only team here that we have partnered for Hackathon 3 that has teams from 3 separate continents. So just want to give a shout out to them. So as we hop into the race here, Tom, what do you see?
Yeah, not a particularly aggressive start. I think it's pretty safe. Our friends at IUPUI have made their way pretty safely to the inside, Ryan.
Yeah, let's see. Getting a little squirrely as we come down the final stretch there, but they seem to have managed pretty well and haven't gone off track too far.
IUPUI seem to have lost at least 0.3 seconds in total, considering the 0.3 seconds gap that they have at the beginning. Might have to do with their simple start. While Black and Gold darted ahead, IUPUI took their time to find their bearings and then start proceeding ahead.
Yeah, and as we look, it seems like every time IUPUI comes around into that 4th turn, they get a little wobbly there. They might want to, look back at that specific turn and see what's going on with their sensors, what could be causing that error there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a correction on their steering to center themselves back on the track. And considering it's so close to the pit entrance, it might also lead me to believe that their stack might be confused whether to stay on the track or head into the pits. As we approach here, let's take a closer look at that. Yeah, I'm not completely sure. It seems like it wanted to head in the pits, but it decided to make a last-minute correction, but it's doing that consistently on every lap.
All right. So if we have a quick look at the lap 4 here, it's pretty close, but Team Black and Gold seems to be really distancing themselves with every lap.
Yeah, we're looking at about 0.4 seconds. I mean, if you really squint, you can see them across the line. But yeah, you can see that gap got pretty large by the end of the race here.
Okay, so let's look at our total times for Heat 1. Black and Gold just edges out IUPUI by just under 3 seconds there. But again, no penalties.
Yeah, no penalties, clean laps by both teams. And let's head into Heat 2.
And not to confuse anybody, but this time Black and Gold is in the white car and IUPUI is in the black car. So a little adjustment needed on your viewing.
Yeah.
Black and Gold really taking the race to IUPUI. They had a beautiful start and seems like they have the pace, but IUPUI is not budging. They're not giving them a chance to overtake. And I think both cars are going full throttle. I'm not sure Black and Gold might be able to extract more from that car to get an overtake.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really looking like they're trying to decide when's the right time to try to overtake IUPUI, but IUPUI is really not giving them any chance for that opportunity.
It actually might be a part of their code that is detecting some sort of a draft to try and get into the slipstream of IUPUI. I really commend them. That's going to be a really useful piece of tech once they go onto the real track, where they can catapult themselves ahead by placing themselves in IUPUI's slipstream. And it seems like the darting in and out is intentional to try and find a spot where they get catapulted ahead.
A little shake and bake, if I might throw a reference. Anchorman there.
So as we head into turn 3, I believe this is, we're waiting for the cars to show up. No change in positions, but really close together there. We're looking at a 0.89 versus a 0.88. Black and gold did make up some time on lap 2. Oh, but they seem to have lost that back in lap 3. It's still pretty close, about 200ths of a second there. But at this point, until IUPUI makes a mistake, black and gold has to settle for second, I think.
All right. Okay, so as they finish lap 4, looks like IUPUI finishes with a 46.9, where black and gold just edges them out with a 46.8.
Yeah, 400ths of a second there. They seem to have, I've seen the 864 before as well. It seems like that was their most ideal trajectory that they were able to put in on that lap there. It'd be interesting to see how they end lap 5. Going into the start finish there, quite different sort of maneuvers near the pit entry for both teams.
Yeah, not sure that we're going to get to it. So,
all right, if we look at the final lap time, what a close race. 3:57 out of each team, but black and gold just edges out the Battle of Indiana, beating IUPUI by just over a tenth of a second. Great job to both teams. Again, no penalties, really great racing. I'm really interested to see how this might shake up the leaderboard here.
Yeah, Ryan, it looks like both of these teams have sneaked right into the middle, so haven't displaced our 1 and 2 competitors, but it has pushed Cavalier out of University of Virginia down, and of course, Pitt didn't finish. So we have a new 3 and 4, and we'll have to see what our next race and the next 2 heats do to the leaderboard.
All right, so here we have Crimson Autonomous Racing out of the University of Alabama. This team took home the silver medal in our second hackathon, and they'll be faced up against all the way across the USA. They'll be facing AI Racing Tech out of the University of Hawaii. Let's jump into it.
All right, we're getting started now. Crimson in black, AI Racing in white, and a quick little maneuver by AI Racing, huh?
Yeah, AI Racing darted to the inside line. We've seen success with waiting for that maneuver. Oh, that's really close to the line, but it seems like they might be okay. It seemed like there was a thin sliver of the tire that's still on that point there. But yeah, it seems like AI Racing is really going wide at the corners, but tucking into the straights. I wonder what their strategy is there for the race line.
Yeah, interesting. And as we see here, we take a look at Crimson. They're really hugging that race line there, or that white line there too. They seem to be really cooking around the track here. I'm really interested to see how they improve on that first lap time, in these subsequent laps.
Yeah, I think the lap 2 times would be a good indicator of their overall standing and how good their lap times is. They had a bit of a disadvantage starting at P2 away from the inside line.
Wow, and Crimson logging a 46-second 0.392 milliseconds for their first lap time. That might be the fastest lap we've seen so far today, Shubham.
It is the personal best for Crimson and the best time that we've seen so far on this track here. I just wanted to point out AI Racing definitely logging a penalty there by going off the track. They got away with it on lap 1, but lap 3 got to them. We'll have to look into how many such instances occurred on the track for them.
All right, and as we finish up our 4th lap, we can see Crimson Autonomous Racing with another fast lap, matching their second lap times. AI Racing putting together quite a nice race as well with their last 3 laps in the 46-second mark. However, it seems that Crimson Autonomous is just edging them out. Let's see what our final standings in this first heat are.
Yeah, an impressive 46.392 by Crimson Racing. I'm afraid AI Racing is going home with a few penalties. Lap 3, 4, and 5. They definitely had a part of their tire completely outside the track bounds. They got away with it in lap 1. We had to really look at it from different angles, but that's 3 5-second penalties for AI Racing.
All right, second heat starting up. So we'll now see if starting ahead is going to give AI a better chance at victory.
Well, it looks like Crimson's really hugging that line now, as you see them there in the white. Do you think that tire may have crossed over that inside line there? Could that be a penalty?
No, I think Crimson was pretty spot on. AI Racing maybe staying too wide into turn one. They should have sort of dominated the position at the start and then sort of control the race pace from there. Another sort of maneuver by AI Racing is when they realize their mistake, it seems like they wanted to enter the inside line, but they were too late and realized that Crimson already was ahead and they had their nose inside of ahead of their back tires. Essentially, they had to concede that racing line at the very start. I don't think that's going to work out well for them.
All right, as we come down the backstretch here, let's take a look at our lap 2 times for both teams as they cross the brick line. We have, wow, a couple of 46-second lap times here. Crimson just edging out AI Racing with about 4 milliseconds. And if we look at lap 3 times, which it looks like we have another fastest lap. Crimson is really finding that line here with a 46.392.
Yeah, the 46.392 looks familiar. Lap 3 and lap 5 were 46.392s for Crimson. It seems like that's their most ideal sort of lap without any interruptions, and they posted that time here again. I've seen sort of a pattern with Crimson where they keep switching between the 46.4 and the 392. There must be some minor variation happening there between those two laps here. And that's definitely a penalty for AI Racing for, again, exiting the track bounds. Similar behavior that we've seen in Heat 1.
Yeah, overall, great races by both teams, but I do think those penalties might end up hurting AI Racing in the scoreboard. As we take a look at our final lap times for Heat 2, Crimson Autonomous Racing with 3 minutes and 55 seconds, very similar to their first heat. And same goes for AI Racing Tech with 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Once again, those 3 penalties are going to hurt them in the standings.
Yeah, without the penalties, we're looking at a lot of teams at sub 4 minutes. Those penalties are really going to add up. With both of the heat combined, they're looking at about 30 seconds of total penalty time. And they have a really good race line. They just need some minor fine tuning in a certain section of the track. Maybe they can work on their approach to prevent that oversteer into the apex there.
All right, so let's see what this did to the standings then. Was Crimson able to? Yes, they were. They were able to take over the #1 position from the University of Auburn, and the University of Hawaii's AI Racing is in at number 6 at 6th place. So you can see the changes in the standing. Pretty interesting. We have a new leader, new top 3. So let's see how that's going to shake out if Crimson can maintain its lead as we go to our next set of heats.
All right, yeah, so let's jump right into it. I think we're in the 5th race here. We have WUT driverless facing up against Autonomous Racing Graz. I think this is our first Europe-only race. Let's see how things shake out.
Well, we do have some bad news, though, for this the start of this race. It appears that WUT failed to show up, so Graz is going to be running this race essentially by themselves, Ryan.
All right, so both vehicles that you see here are actually being driven by Autonomous Racing Graz's virtual driver, very similar to their twin ego scenario. Shubham, what do you have anything to maybe add into that?
Yeah, this is an interesting setup. I mean, both drivers being sort of from the same master pool, they're performing in very sort of consistent ways. You can see it's almost like a ballet. Both of them have lined up on the track and continue to follow sort of the same line here. And considering they both belong to Graz, I don't think they're going to make any overtaking maneuvers. I'm pretty sure the P2 vehicle is just going to stick behind and ask sort of the lead vehicle to complete the race in the best time that they can.
Yeah, if you guys are a fan of synchronized swimming, you'll be a fan of synchronized racing as well. I think this is like poetry in motion here.
Just have to wonder, is this going to have an impact on Graz's overall time, though?
I don't believe so. So as you can see, they're posting a consistent 47.024. They seem to have perfected that lap, lap after lap. It almost seems like we're looking at a replay here, except for the start. But compared to the other teams, I think there's still some work to do. We have seen some 46s, and they are a few means off from the best lap times that we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think they might be able to squeeze a little more juice out of their car here.
I think they might be going a little bit too wide. I mean, we've seen everything from just going wide on the corners to maintaining sort of a safe distance. I think they're decided to maintain that safe distance here. But common times across lap 2 through lap 5, and I mean, that's the mark of a good racing driver, is consistent time across laps. They seem to have perfected that one lap, just some minor fine tuning, and I think they can eye for the top spot here.
Yeah, so as you can see here, DNF out of WUT, and Graz finishes with a 358. Let's just jump right into Heat 2. It looks like WUT has actually showed up for this heat.
Yeah, just to clarify for our viewers, WUT, I was going to say the black vehicles WUT, but yeah, now that we know, and it turns out they were very aggressive at the start, but Graz staying consistent from the beginning, just holding their line while WUT really went into the right wall here and gaining a penalty there by going out of bounds by crossing that white line. I'm not 100% confident if that was meant to cut off Graz or if it was meant to sort of position themselves for the entry into turn 1. But a lot of penalties there being piled up by WUT. The amount of the location that they're in and the way that they're crashing into the wall, it could end up in a fireball in the real race.
Yeah, they definitely want to go back to the drawing board with that and eliminate that from further races, especially as we get closer to the physical race here.
Yeah, and again, Shubhang, this is just incurring a penalty during this hackathon, but in future ones they're going to be disqualified, right?
Yeah, that is correct. So we've gone pretty lenient in terms of collisions in this race, in this particular hackathon. Going forward, I think the competition teams really need to fine tune and ensure that there are no collisions. The collision in a virtual environment is not expensive at all, but considering the real competition, it could be a safety hazard, and it could prove to be quite expensive as well. So there would be no tolerance to collisions going forward.
All right, so if we look at our lap 4 times, even with all the penalties, WUT is still putting together a fast lap here. And as we cross the finish line for lap 5, Graz way out ahead. Let's look at the final lap times for both heats. So we have, for Heat 2, we have WUT with all of the penalties piled up. They finished with 7 minutes and 34 seconds. Unfortunately, that's probably going to put them on the bottom of the leaderboard. But ARG, another great time with a 358. That's pretty much dead even with where they were at with Heat 1.
I'm wondering if this is the reason they didn't show up for the previous heat. Just something to think about, I guess.
Yeah, so what does this mean to the leaderboard? No changes in the top 5. Graz comes in the 6th position, and because of a lack of performance in the first heat, our friends from WUT are a DNF, so they are out of contention. And with that, let's go to the next race, next 2 heats.
All right, so we're in the 6th race here. We have Pegasus, which is University of Colorado and Western Michigan University partnered together. And actually for this hackathon, they actually partnered with Rochester Institute of Technology out of New York as well. So we have a 3-teamer here going up against Reveley Racing. They're out of Texas A&M University. We gave them props earlier in the presentation for submitting their their safe braking scenario. But now let's see how they compete in a head-to-head matchup.
Oh, kind of literally a shaky start by Pegasus. Seems like there's a problem. What is it with the line following algorithm? What do you guys think?
Ooh, yeah, I think you're right there, Tom. It seems to can't seem to find the right line, and from this view, it looks like they're heading into the pits early to maybe try to figure out what could be the issue there.
And Reveley really getting the pace on. They already lapped Pegasus into lap 1. I'm not sure what Pegasus is doing inside the pits, but I think it proves the fact that their lane following algorithm might be off. They seem to be lost, and they're not able to decide which racing line to take, and they decided to head into the pits here. Reveley really showing sort of a really neat lap there, while Pegasus tries to make its way back onto the main track here. I hope they can rejoin safely, and they seem to be losing control of the vehicle too.
Yeah, they seem to be just trying to maybe square dance down down the track here. As you can see by their lap 1 time, Reveley just almost, or Pegasus, I should say, just almost doubles Reveley's racing time.
But a pretty good transition, pretty good pass from Reveley, right?
Yeah, their team seems to be putting together quite, a nice race here. As we can see, their lap 2 is in the 46 seconds. We've seen with all the previous races, that seems to be right around where the fastest laps are. So I don't think they have the fastest lap, but they're right in the thick of it. Woo!
A little bit of a close call.
That was close. It seems like Pegasus is just kind of dancing in the middle of the track here. That might be a safety hazard moving forward. Thank God this is just a virtual race.
Shubhang, if we were on a physical track and a driver was performing like this, they would be what, disqualified?
Yeah, so it's going to start by giving the driver a black flag, where you would ask them to come into the pits, and it's basically directed only on at one car. But if they fail to follow that, the entire race would have to be red flagged, and that would sort of be the end of the proceedings for the day usually.
All right, so let's look at our final lap times for Heat 1. Reveley Racing, great first heat, 3 minutes and 57 seconds. And, unfortunately, Pegasus, all of that dancing is going to cost them. And they finish with a 8-minute first heat. So let's jump into Heat 2. Maybe Pegasus can figure things out here.
Wow. Very close call.
Pegasus jumping right in, getting in the way of Reveley, and there was definitely contact there in the tires. With the tires, a really unsafe maneuver by Pegasus. I feel like Pegasus might need to go back to the drawing board here and really start working on their lane following algorithm, and then work on their aggressive maneuvers after that. It seems to be they were trying to bite off too much.
Yeah, Reveley Racing, again, just putting the pedal down and lapping Pegasus quite a few times. It seems to be a similar race as before with, oh boy. Yeah, this could be very dangerous moving forward in future races.
Yeah, and that was actually a penalty for Reveley. They are going to take 10 seconds for that, for an unsafe overtake. We do understand that Pegasus was dancing around in the track, but the responsibility there lied with Reveley to be able to distance themselves sufficiently as they approach from the back for a slower moving vehicle.
Right, but as you guys just saw, Reveley, they were able to pass Pegasus without any issues, just like that. And so I think it's one penalty. It's definitely something to be aware of, but they've been able to overtake Pegasus quite a few times here safely. So, all right, let's look at the final lap times for Heat 2. Reveley Racing finishing just over 4 minutes. That's 4 minutes and 7 seconds. While Pegasus, again, somehow they found a way to beat their first heat with, beat in a way with more seconds. 8:19, yeah. Unfortunately, they're going to definitely want to go back to the drawing board and like you mentioned, Tom, take a look at that lane line algorithm.
Yeah. So and Shubhang, you want to talk? You talked about the penalties already. I suspect that's had a pretty material impact. It certainly has with Reveley. They would have been in a much stronger position. Probably would have moved into what, 4th place, 5th place. Unfortunately, that 10 seconds drops them down into 7th, and Pegasus is way down at 10th with a pretty weak time, all things considered.
Yeah, with 5 and 6 sitting at 7:56, and then Reveley sitting at 8:05. Those 10 seconds costed them dearly.
Yeah. Okay, up to the next race and our next 2 heats, Ryan.
All right. So here we have KAIST. That is the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, and they'll be faced up against Team Avion. Let's just get into it.
Okay, KAIST in black, and wow, they have taken off. Avion is really in the back, really in the not so much pole position right now.
Yeah, like a bullet on a speeding train, KAIST just fires out of the gates and takes that commanding lead. All right, so as they come down the back stretch here, let's see how their first lap times shake out. Let's see.
Yeah, I think the key word there is lap, Ryan. I think KAIST is going to end up lapping Avion before this is all said and done.
Yeah, we're looking about 3 or 4 seconds between them. I'm not 100% confident that they'll get lapped, but Avion is racking up some penalties there. They had an out-of-bounds penalty both for lap 1 and 2. And in pretty similar situations, if I remember correctly, they racked those up right into turn 1. A lot of people have been racking up penalties into turn 1. It's a little weird that that's the spot where most of the penalties are being racked up. Maybe they need to step off the throttle as they enter turn 1 to sort of avoid that oversteer in.
Yeah, I think that's solid advice there, Shubhang. And as we've seen, probably another penalty out of Avion there as they came dangerously close to the wall, and all of those penalties as they start to stack up, those can, really put you at the bottom of the leaderboard.
Yeah, that's right. They've consistently logged a 5-second penalty on all their laps, all within the starting 10 seconds of a lap there.
Yeah, and as we look at final lap times, KAIST beats Avion with a time of 3 minutes and 57 seconds. Let's see if Avion can maybe pull it together in Heat 2.
Okay, positions are now reversed. Avion in black, and that is a crash.
You hate to see that.
Avion really went into KAIST there, and Avion now goes off the track. I think Avion was in a good position to start with if they kept the inside line. Even though they liked going wide into turn 1, they could have come back to that in lap 2. Considering how dangerous race starts can be, Avion should have been more mindful at the start there.
Yeah, Shubham, quick question. So it seems like some competitors, when they have that inside line, maybe their first instinct is to dart to the outside and maybe cut off that outside vehicle. If you were the outside vehicle, how would you maybe avoid? Oh, whoa!
What is that?
What just happened there?
Avion seems to have taken a shortcut. Where did they come from? Let's look at a replay.
Oh, wow.
They decided to go right across the field there. Someone was not happy with their first lap time.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't reward shortcuts here unless you count a DNF as a reward. Looking at KAIST, they finished with 3 minutes and 57 seconds. Great racing out of them, but unfortunately, Avion, like we had mentioned, is going to get the DNF. So let's take a peek at the leaderboard, see where KAIST lands.
Yeah, they have secured a fifth position, which is pretty decent, all things considered, given what they had to deal with. And unfortunately, Avion was not able to finish, so they're at the bottom. But very respectable from our friends in Korea. Okay, next race, Ryan.
Absolutely. So here we see our first place finishers from Hackathon 2, Politecnico. They're or Polimove out of Politecnico di Milano, University out of Italy, and they'll be faced up against TUM Autonomous Motorsports. Let's see if maybe Polimove can make a move into the top of the leaderboard.
So interesting approach here from TUM, going wide. TUM in white, going wide to start with. Any idea what the strategy might be there?
I feel it's just a choice of racing line here, and it's similar to what Ryan was mentioning in one of the previous races as well. So there's two ways to look at this. So either you stay on the inside track throughout. That basically means as you approach the entrance to a corner, you would have to reduce your speed a little bit, but that is the shortest route, let's say. With TUM going wide, what they're trying to mostly do is take more speed into the corner. So it's going to be they can take the corners at a higher speed, but they have to go, they have to cover up for that additional distance traveled. In terms of which one's better, I think this race might answer it. So we're looking at a 46.3 from Polimove on that inside line, while TUM sits at a 47.3. That's a whole second lead for Polimove there.
Shubong, if I might add, I think 46.384 might be our fastest lap. If I remember correctly, I think Crimson had a 3.92, and that was previously our fastest lap.
That is correct. We have the new fastest lap. So Crimson consistently logged a 3.92 on lap 2 and lap 4 for heat 1. And it seems like Polimove has taken that crown with a 3.84, and they're being consistent about it. Lap 2 and lap 3 sort of logging that same time, and it seems pretty consistent with all of the leading teams as they've perfected their trajectories here.
Yeah, and as we all know, it's not just enough to be fast, you have to be consistent. And if we look at Polimove here, 3 laps in a row, they've matched their fastest lap time. We got to think that this is going to put them in the top spot, right?
TUM is actually making a decent effort. So if you see going from lap 2 to lap 3, they have reduced almost 0.03 of a second there, and they improved on that even further into lap 5, but it seems like that just wasn't enough for them to win this heat.
Yeah, very respectable race out of TUM. They finished with almost 4 minutes flat, just over, whereas Polimove finishes with 3 minutes and 55 seconds. Great race out of both of them. No penalties either, I might add. We love to see that.
Yeah, I'm watching Polimove's total time really closely here. They are going to take the fight to Crimson. Oh, look at that. TUM denying entry to Polimove into turn 1, but Polimove then makes their way in after taking a bit of a break there.
Interesting. Do you think that initial move out of TUM may have thrown off Polimove a little bit, maybe just to allow maybe a little window for Crimson to hold on to that top spot?
I think they did. We've seen a few races where a lot of teams try to control the race pace by holding other teams back. Out here, what I'm more worried about is Polimove might have lost time considering they had to go off the throttle and maybe even brake a little bit as they saw TUM come in. To prevent that collision, but really kudos to Polimove to put safety first before trying to sort of just get in there and maybe cause a collision there. Really hats off to them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, we've seen plenty of teams, move from the inside, dart to the outside, maybe trying to cut off the other vehicle. And usually that ends up in a collision, but Polimove had the wits to see that coming and jump back into the inside. Unfortunately, it may have cost them in time, but it's always great when we can see collisions being avoided on the track.
Yeah, and they seem to be a little bit slower than their Heat 1 results, where we were seeing a consistent 3.84, more of a 4.16 this time around.
All right, so we're seeing lap 5 finish here. Polimove finishes with 356. It actually looks like both teams may have finished with just a second over their previous heat times. Maybe that was caused by that initial move out of TUM.
I'm not very good at math. I think let's pull in the scoreboard. I can't wait to find out what's happening there.
All right.
Yeah, so the big question is, will that be enough? And the answer is no. A very respectable second position for Polimove, but Crimson from the University of Alabama maintains its number 1 position, and our friends in Munich in at number 9, pretty much right in the middle. We have 1 race left, 2 more heats to go. Can anyone knock out Crimson?
Yeah, I think maybe if anybody can do it, there's Team Ariel and out of Ariel University, and they're pitted up against Euro Racing, which is actually a combination of 4 different universities over in Europe. I think both of these teams have pretty good, they have pretty good race lines from the last hackathon, if I remember. But let's just jump into the race and see what happens.
So pretty standard start, it feels like.
Yeah, they accelerated about the same amount, so they're able to maintain that gap. It's again, we're seeing that typical behavior where one of the team is deciding to stay with the inside line while Euro Racing goes wide at every turn entrance and positions themselves on the outside of the straights here. Seems to have worked for them for lap 1. Staying on the outside as they enter turn 1 really saved them some time. But we're going to have to check what happens in lap 2 and Euro Racing getting really close to the outside wall there.
Closer than I would like to get to, that's for sure.
Yeah, Shubham, do you think they were close enough where they actually made contact with that wall? Do you think that's going to be a penalty?
No, there was a thin sliver of air between the tire and the wall. A little too close for my comfort, but no penalties there. There was no contact.
That's good. All right, so let's see teams. They make their way around turn 4 into the final stretch here. Let's see what their third lap times look like. Ariel seems to be building some distance between them and Euro Racing.
Yeah, Euro Racing seems to have fallen behind. We're seeing consistent results with Euro Racing down to 500th of a second. It seems like this is their most optimum lap. A little variation on Ariel's time here, a 7.76 versus a 7.84. But we can clearly see on the start-finish straight, Ariel seems to be getting ahead ever so slightly at every lap here.
All right, yeah, Ariel again with a 46.784, matching their lap 3 time. Yeah, like you mentioned, they just seem to be inching ahead of that Euro Racing team.
Euro Racing seems to have found 100th of a second there. Something's being optimized on the fly.
Wow, that's a close race there. He won final lap time. They both finished with 3 minutes and 57 seconds. However, Ariel University just edging out Euro Racing by 0.6 of a second.
Okay, and we're into the second heat, and pretty aggressive move by Euro Racing to start things off.
Yeah, we've seen that move a couple times now. Some teams that when they have that inside line, they like to immediately dart out to the outside. I'm wondering if that's maybe to gain an edge on clipping the apex into that first turn.
Yeah, they really want to take some high speed into that turn 1, but I'm not sure if I would recommend that maneuver in sort of at the start of the race. We are currently only dealing with 2 vehicles here, but I can imagine a situation where this can get messy, where they have to navigate around more than 1 vehicle there.
Well, next hackathon, they're going to be dealing with 4, so we'll see what happens.
That's a good point, Tom. Yeah, we'll see if that's a strategy that people decide to go with moving forward here as more vehicles enter the track.
So it seems like Ariel has the gap, especially into a corner, but then Euro Racing seems to cut them off. Both of these vehicles are identical, so there's no sort of gain to be had here. They're all going full throttle through that corner. Euro Racing would have to have some sort of a misstep for Ariel to get in there. Ooh, that is close, but no contact. They're really milking every inch of this track here.
Yeah, if I must say, this might be one of the more entertaining races that we've seen, and fittingly, it's the last race. But if you look at the times, these teams are neck and neck and seem to be kind of going back and forth with each other.
Yeah, Euro Racing, I'm not sure how they're doing it, but it doesn't make sense visually the way that they're dotting in and out. But they are able to post consistent times here.
Wow. And if you couldn't imagine, after the first heat, these teams have managed to get even closer in total lap times here. So if we look, they both again finished with the 3 minutes and 57 seconds. However, Euro Racing actually edges out Team Ariel by just under a tenth of a second. And might I add, no penalties again. Love to see when there's no penalties on the board. That means it was a great race all around. And I definitely commend both teams for their racing styles.
But it does not have an impact on our top five. So Ariel places in the final score or final leaderboard at number 6. Euro Racing in at number 8, which is pretty exciting. Then we've got we have our winners, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, congrats to all these teams. Wow.
Go to the checkered flags, and of course, as we know, we don't celebrate with alcohol when driving. So it's always done in the tradition of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, with a bottle of milk being poured over the winner. That honor this time, this hackathon, goes to Crimson Autonomous Racing out of the University of Alabama. Congratulations. That was a very, very well job done. Very, very well.
Yeah, Tom, this team's done really well. And if you recall, they were second place for the last hackathon, and now they've risen to that top spot. Incredible performance out of this team. Congratulations. All right, so if we take a look at our podium here, there you have it. Crimson Tide sitting atop the mountain. They've really got to be proud of their performance here today. I know their football team just recently earned bragging rights as national champions, but move over, jocks. The Crimson Autonomous Racing Team can now officially say they're international champions. Look at that. And as we take a look at the rest of our finalists, Polimove gets to go home with the silver medal, while Autonomous Tiger Racing takes home the bronze medal for the second hackathon in a row. Regardless of finish, all of our competitors should take pride in their performances today. These were the most difficult challenges they faced so far in this competition, and it's really something to build off of as we look toward the future. So with that, let's go ahead and send it over to Sandeep to present to our top 3 teams the prizes that they'll be taking back to campus.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Shubham. This was so exciting, and it's our honor today now to give awards to the winners over here. So we're honored to present the first place prize to Crimson Autonomous Racing from University of Alabama. Really great job, guys. The second place prize goes to Politecnico di Milano, finishing second. Again, fantastic race, really good performance, consistent performance from last time, and some really nice maneuvers that you did in your race. Some of those maneuvers actually threw you off here from your first spot that you had for the last hackathon, but just an incredible job. And our third place winner is Autonomous Tiger Racing. Again, what a steady performance. Autonomous Tiger Racing came in third place in the last hackathon, and you again have third place this hackathon. So congratulations to you. This time we're doing a few more awards, and we're going to do a fastest lap award. This would be awarded to the team that made the fastest lap around the oval in this hackathon. And if you listened to the commentary very well and paid attention in the last couple heats, you already know who this winner is. They had a very steady performance where against their competitor. They had 3 laps that were the fastest laps, racking the same time. And they are once again Politecnico di Milano. Congratulations for being the fastest virtual autonomous vehicle in simulation. We are going to give one more award in this hackathon. This award is referred to as the Rising Star Award. And this award is awarded to the team that showed the most improvement from hackathon number 2 to hackathon number 3. The team that moved the most up in the ranks actually was not present in the hackathon 2 board at all. They had DNFs and they were not able to complete the race. And from a DNF in hackathon number 2, they have shot way up on the board, and so far way up on the board that they are giving a competition to the top 3, and they're come top 4th on the board, and that is University of Waterloo Water Race. So fantastic job, guys. You have shown just an amazing change between your performance between hackathon 2 and hackathon 3, and you're right there at the top of the stack, giving tough competition to the top 3 leaders. And like Ryan said, this is an incredible achievement for all the teams who participated. You have very truly earned all the bragging rights for this. So with that, we come to the close of our hackathon number 3. What an incredible event it was. First time that we have ever seen autonomous vehicles, virtual autonomous vehicles race virtually inside of a simulation, neck to neck against each other. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful Friday evening and a wonderful day. And goodbye to you from everybody here at ANSYS. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.